All right, so you want the lowdown on these 2025 California wildfires.
Let's do it.
We're going deep on this shit,
Right.
way deeper than the news.
Okay.
We're talking Wikipedia-level deep dive, and let me tell you, the numbers are fucking scary.
Yeah.
Over 300 wildfires.
It's crazy.
Almost 60,000 acres burned. I mean, that's like 3 Rhode Islands just up in smoke.
Yeah, it's unbelievable the scale of destruction.
And it's not just like trees and shit. We're talking about people here.
Oh, yeah.
28 confirmed deaths.
Right.
Over 20 people injured.
Mm-hmm.
And over 16,000 structures gone. Homes, businesses, everything.
Just wiped out.
Yeah, just wiped the fuck off the map. So we get it. California is basically a giant barbecue gone wrong. But what the hell happened?
Well,
I mean, California always has wildfires, right?
right, but this is not like the old days. This isn't your grandpa's wildfire season. This is climate change kicking things into overdrive.
So we're not talking about some random act of God. This is climate change straight up fucking with us.
Yeah, pretty much. Think of it like this. California gets hit with a ton of rain, so you have all this crazy plant growth, right?
Yeah.
Then comes the drought, and all that greenery turns into a tinderbox, and climate change is making that extreme swing way more likely.
So all that rain was basically like setting the table for a disaster buffet, and then climate change is that asshole guest that shows up with an extra large lighter.
Yeah, exactly. You got it. Scientists are saying these fires were somewhere between 31 to 66% more likely because of climate change. And the crazy thing is, the models they used to predict this shit, they underestimated the risk.
So even the brainiacs didn't see this coming. That's fucking comforting.
I know, right? It really just underscores how serious the situation is. They're saying even a small temperature increase, like 3 degrees, could double the chances of this happening again.
Double shit.
Yeah.
California might as well just invest in some fireproof underwear at this point.
Yeah, no kidding. And there's more. A UCLA study found that the extreme heat from just last year, 2024, was responsible for 25% of the dryness that fueled these fires. That's last year's heat wave still screwing us over.
So we're not just dealing with the immediate fallout. It's like climate change is setting off this chain reaction of fucked upness that just keeps on giving.
It does. It really does. And it's not just the heat either. Climate change is also messing with those infamous Santa Ana winds. It's making their season longer and more intense.
Wait, so we've got more fuel for the fires, hotter temperatures, and winds that could knock you off your feet. Talk about a recipe for disaster.
Exactly. And another thing, remember Billionaire's Beach, that Malibu haven for the super rich? Well, it's toast. Hundreds of millions, maybe billions of dollars up in smoke.
Karma's a bitch, huh? You'd think those billionaires would finally wake up and smell the, smell the climate change coffee. Maybe they'll finally trade in those private jets for electric cars.
Yeah, one can only hope. But let's dive into some of these specific fires. The Palisades fire, for example.
Yeah, that one was a real motherfucker. Over 23,000 acres burned, almost 7,000 structures gone, 11 confirmed deaths. That's the third most destructive wildfire in California's history, if I'm remembering this shit right.
You are. Those Santa Ana winds during that time played a huge role in how fast it spread. It was like trying to fight a monster fueled by jet fuel.
Damn. 7,000 structures, that's practically a whole town gone. So Palisades was a nightmare, but then you've got the Eaton fire. Sounds almost cute, doesn't it?
Doesn't it? Don't let the name fool you, though. The Eaton fire was even more destructive.
Really?
Yeah, it destroyed over 9,400 structures, which makes it the second most destructive fire in the state's history.
Second. Jesus, what was number one?
The Camp Fire back in 2018, it destroyed almost 19,000 structures and killed 85 people.
Ah, shit. Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah.
But back to Eaton. 17 confirmed deaths. It's just brutal.
It is. It's really tough. The winds, along with those dry conditions, made it almost impossible to contain.
So we've got these 2 mega fires that basically rewrote California's record books for destruction. What the hell is going on here?
Well, it's a perfect storm of factors, but the underlying message is clear. Climate change is turning up the heat on these events,
Yeah.
making them more frequent, more intense, and way more destructive.
And the scary part is this is just the tip of the iceberg, right?
It is. Unless we address the root causes of climate change, these types of disasters are only going to become more common.
Well, that's just fucking fantastic.
It's a wake-up call, though. A very dire warning that we can no longer ignore.
Okay, so we've laid out the grim reality of these wildfires, but where do we go from here? Because saying climate change is bad doesn't exactly put out the fires, does it?
It doesn't. We need to understand the complexities and find solutions, and one key aspect is forest management.
Forest management. So you mean like cleaning up the underbrush and all that shit? That seems kind of obvious.
It's actually more nuanced than that.
Yep.
We need to shift from reactive firefighting to proactive forest management.
Okay.
So that includes things like prescribed burns, thinning out dense vegetation, creating defensible spaces around communities.
So basically, giving the forest a haircut and teaching it some self-defense.
Essentially, yeah. It's all about reducing what we call the fuel load and making it harder for those fires to spread uncontrollably.
Okay, so that makes sense. But wouldn't all that piss off those tree-hugging environmentalists?
There's always resistance to change, but the science is pretty clear. Healthy forests need active management, and sometimes that means controlled burns.
Right, so trim the forest beard. Got it.
Right.
What else can we do besides, praying for rain dances to actually work for once?
Well, we need to invest in early warning systems and improve our fire detection capabilities. I'm talking satellites, drones, AI-powered sensors, the whole shebang. The faster we can detect a fire, the faster we can contain it.
So like a fire alarm for the whole damn state. Not a bad idea.
Exactly. And we need to beef up our firefighting resources, obviously.
Yeah.
More firefighters, better equipment, improved training to handle these mega fires.
Yeah, because those guys are basically fighting a war against nature, right?
They are. They really are. They're on the front lines of a very dangerous and increasingly challenging battle.
Speaking of battles, what about all those people who lost their homes in these fires? Are they just screwed?
Well, that brings up the issue of insurance, which is becoming a huge problem in fire-prone areas. A lot of insurers are refusing to renew policies, or they're jacking up premiums to astronomical levels.
So it's like damned if you do, damned if you don't. You either stay and risk losing everything, or you leave and get priced out of your own home.
It's a difficult situation, and it highlights the need for more government assistance and disaster relief funding.
Yeah, because this isn't just a California problem anymore, is it? Wildfires are popping up everywhere these days.
You're right. It's becoming a global issue, fueled by climate change and made worse by human actions. We're seeing similar trends in Australia, the Mediterranean, even parts of the Amazon rainforest.
So the whole planet is basically playing with fire. That's not exactly a comforting thought.
It's a stark reminder of our interconnectedness and the urgent need for collective action.
Okay, so we've talked about forest management, early warning systems, firefighting resources, insurance, government assistance. It feels like a giant, tangled mess.
It is a complex issue, but it's a mess we created and a mess we need to clean up. The good news is there are solutions out there. We just need the political will and the public support to implement them.
Public support. Isn't that what all those climate protests are about?
Yes, but it needs to translate into concrete action. Voting for politicians who prioritize climate change, supporting policies that reduce greenhouse gas emissions, making individual choices that minimize our environmental impact. It all adds up.
So it's not just about pointing fingers. It's about actually doing something.
Exactly. We can't just sit back and wait for someone else to fix it. We all have a role to play in preventing future disasters.
All right, I'm starting to feel a little less doom and gloom here. So where do we even begin? I mean, I recycle. I try not to leave the lights on. Is that really enough?
It's a start. But we need systemic change. We need to transition away from fossil fuels, invest in renewable energy, promote sustainable agriculture, and hold corporations accountable for their environmental practices.
So basically, we need to overhaul the whole damn system.
In essence, yes. We need to rethink our relationship with the planet and adopt a more sustainable way of living.
That sounds like a tall order. But hey, I guess if we can put a man on the moon, we can figure this shit out, right?
It's definitely not going to be easy, but it's essential for our survival. The future of our planet depends on it.
Well, that's a pretty good motivator, wouldn't you say?
I would agree. The stakes are high, but so is the potential for positive change.
Okay, I'm feeling a little more optimistic now, but let's be real. There are going to be people who just don't give a shit.
Right.
There will always be those who deny the reality of climate change, but the evidence is overwhelming. We can't let their inaction hold us back.
So we got to ignore the climate change deniers and focus on the people who are actually willing to do something. Precisely. We need to build a movement, a coalition of concerned citizens who are demanding change.
A movement, huh? Sounds kind of like a hippie commune.
It's more about collective action and shared responsibility. We need to work together across political divides to address this existential threat.
Okay, I can get behind that. So what's the first step? Should I be chaining myself to a tree or something?
Perhaps not. Start by educating yourself about the issue, engaging in meaningful conversations, and supporting organizations that are working towards solutions.
All right, I can do that. Education, conversation, action. Sounds like a plan.
It's a journey, not a destination, and it's a journey we must take together.
Well said. All right, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've seen the devastation, explored the causes, and even started to talk about solutions. But what does the future hold for California? Are we all just going to be living in underground bunkers, sipping recycled pee, and praying for a breeze that doesn't ignite the whole damn state?
Well, that's one scenario, but I'd like to think we're capable of a more nuanced response.
Nuanced. Come on, these fires are practically apocalyptic. What's nuanced about trying to survive a goddamn inferno?
It's about adapting, innovating, and finding ways to coexist with a changing climate. It's about resilience.
Resilience. That's a fancy word. What does that even mean in this context?
It means being able to adapt to change, to bounce back from adversity, and to create systems that can withstand shocks and stresses.
So like a societal stress ball that can handle the pressure of a climate meltdown.
In a way, yes. It's about building flexibility, redundancy, and the capacity to learn and adapt.
Okay.
We need to rethink urban planning, promote sustainable building practices, and create communities that are more resilient to natural disaster.
Okay, I get it. We got to be smarter about where and how we build. But what about the
Right.
people who already live in these high-risk areas? Are they just screwed?
Well, there's the option of managed retreat.
Managed retreat. Sounds like something you do from a bad date. What the hell does that even mean?
It basically means strategically relocating communities away from the most vulnerable areas. It's not a decision to be taken lightly, but in some cases, it might be the most sensible approach.
So like a mass exodus from the fire zone. It sounds kind of drastic, don't you think?
It's not an easy decision, and it needs to be done very carefully, with a lot of planning.
Yeah.
It's about weighing the risks and benefits and making tough choices for the long-term well-being of these communities.
Because the last thing we need is another disaster on top of the disaster.
Exactly. It's about finding solutions that are both effective and just.
All right, so we've got some ideas for the future. Smarter building, managed retreat, community involvement. But honestly, it still feels like we're just playing catch up with this whole climate change thing.
To a certain extent, yes.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also an opportunity here.
Okay.
A chance to rethink our priorities, to invest in a more sustainable future, and to build a more resilient society.
All right, I'm feeling that little spark of optimism again. So what's the takeaway message here? What can we, the regular folks, actually do to make a difference?
First and foremost, educate yourself about the issue. Understand the science, the impacts, and the solutions.
Okay.
Then talk about it. Have conversations with your family, your friends, your community. Share your concerns, your ideas, and your hopes for the future.
So basically, we need to turn climate change into a dinner table conversation.
Exactly. It shouldn't be a taboo topic. It should be a central part of our public discourse. And then take action.
Okay.
Support policies that promote sustainability, vote for leaders who prioritize climate change, make conscious choices in your daily life to reduce your environmental impact. Every action, no matter how small, contributes to the solution.
Okay, I can handle that. Educate, communicate, activate. Sounds like a plan.
It's a plan for survival, a plan for a better future, a plan for a more resilient and sustainable world.
Well, that's a pretty damn good plan, wouldn't you say?
I would agree. The challenges are great, but so are the possibilities. We were talking about billionaires' beach getting toasted, it's kind of ironic, isn't it?
How so?
Well, these guys spend millions, billions on beachfront property, and then Mother Nature just comes along and says, nope, that's mine now.
It's like a cosmic real estate agent rezoning Malibu for disaster relief.
It really does make you think about the priorities of the ultra-wealthy. I mean, while they're busy building their mega mansions, the rest of us are dealing with the very real consequences of a changing climate.
Speaking of consequences, let's talk about some of these other fires. We talked about Palisades and Eaton, but there was another one that you wanted to dig into. What was it?
The Silverado fire.
Right.
Silverado.
It burned through almost 13,000 acres in Orange County, forced over 90,000 people to evacuate.
Shit, 90,000 people. That's like a small city on the run. What made this one so different?
Well, this one really highlights the intersection of human development and wildfire risk.
Okay.
The Silverado fire was sparked by, get this, downed power lines. Power lines.
Yeah.
Seriously. That's some third world country bullshit.
I know, right? But it's a problem here in California, especially with aging infrastructure and, the winds are getting stronger.
Yeah.
And when those lines go down, they can ignite that dry vegetation like a matchstick.
So we're talking about a fire started by our own damn technology.
Yeah.
That's some next level irony right there.
It is. It underscores the need for us to seriously overhaul our energy infrastructure.
Yeah.
We need to invest in more resilient power grids,
Uh-huh.
bury those power lines underground, and really move towards those renewable energy sources that don't rely on these vulnerable systems.
Okay, so upgrade the energy game
Yeah.
like yesterday. Got it.
Yeah.
What else can we do to, to prevent these fires from turning California into one giant charcoal briquette?
Well, we talked about forest management earlier, but it's worth really emphasizing how crucial that is.
Yeah.
We need to be more proactive, not reactive.
Look.
Prescribed burns,
Yeah.
thinning out that dense vegetation,
Hmm.
creating defensible spaces.
Yeah.
All of this needs to be on the table.
So basically, we need to treat our forests like a giant flammable beard that needs regular trimming. I can get behind that.
Exactly. It's about understanding that fire is a natural part of these ecosystems.
Right.
We can't prevent all wildfires, but we can manage them more effectively.
Okay, so we got the forest beard situation under control. What about early warning systems? Can't we just throw some fancy tech at this problem and call it a day?
Technology can play a big role, for sure.
Okay.
We're talking about satellites that can detect hotspots in real time,
Huh.
drones that can fly over those affected areas and assess the damage, AI-powered sensors that can monitor the weather conditions and try to predict fire behavior.
So, like, we're turning California into some high-tech fire watch zone.
Pretty much, yeah. The sooner we can detect a fire, the sooner we can get those resources deployed and try to contain it. It's about being proactive, strategic.
Okay, but all that tech is useless if you don't have enough firefighters to actually fight the damn fires.
Right. You're absolutely right. We need to be investing in our firefighting workforce.
Yeah.
More firefighters, better training, state-of-the-art equipment. These guys are putting their lives on the line. They deserve the very best we can give them.
Yeah, because let's be real, these mega fires are like battling a dragon with a garden hose.
They are. They're facing an increasingly challenging and dangerous enemy. And we need to give them the tools and resources to succeed.
Okay, so we've talked about preventing these fires, but what about the people who are, like, already dealing with the fallout? I mean, their homes are gone, their lives are upended. What happens to them?
That's where insurance comes in, or in a lot of cases doesn't.
Oh, you mean how insurance companies are basically bailing on California like rats fleeing a sinking ship?
It's becoming a huge problem. Many insurers are refusing to renew policies in those high-risk areas, or they're just jacking up the premiums to levels that are just unaffordable for most people.
So you're basically screwed if you stay, and you're screwed if you go. Stay and risk losing everything, or leave and get priced out of your own damn state.
It's a really dire situation, and it highlights the need for more government assistance, disaster relief funding, and a serious conversation about the role of insurance in a world that's been changed by the climate.
Yeah, because let's face it, this isn't just a California problem anymore, right? Wildfires are turning into a global shit show.
Exactly. We're seeing similar trends all over Australia, the Mediterranean, even parts of the Amazon. It's a reminder that we're all in this together, whether we like it or not.
So we've got our work cut out for us, huh?
We do, but I believe we have the ingenuity, the resources, and the will to find solutions. It's about changing our mindset, shifting our priorities, and really taking action.
Action, huh? What does that even look like
Yeah.
for the average Joe? I mean, I recycle, I try to conserve water, I even have a reusable grocery bag. But is that really enough?
Individual actions are definitely important, but they're only part of the equation. We need systemic change. We need to shift in our policies, our infrastructure, our entire way of life.
So we're talking about a full-blown societal makeover, like ditching our gas-guzzling cars, switching to renewable energy, becoming best friends with Mother Nature.
It's about recognizing that we're part of this larger ecosystem. We're not separate from it. We need to start living in a way that's sustainable, not just for ourselves, but for the planet as a whole.
That sounds like a pretty tall order, but I guess if we can figure out how to stream movies on our phones, we can figure this out.
The challenges are immense, I won't lie to you, but so are the opportunities. This isn't just about surviving, it's about thriving. It's about creating a future that's not just livable, but actually desirable.
All right, I'm feeling a little less apocalyptic now. So where do we even begin this societal makeover? Should we be chaining ourselves to trees or something?
Perhaps not. It starts with education, with understanding the issues and the solutions. It starts with conversations, with engaging your community and demanding change.
So we need to turn climate change into the new dinner table conversation topic. Move over. Politics and religion, there's a new hot button issue in town.
Exactly. We shouldn't be treating it like a taboo topic. We need to normalize these conversations, make them part of our everyday lives.
Okay, so we got the education and conversation part down. What about action? What can we actually do to make a difference?
Support those organizations that are working on the front lines of climate change. Vote for those politicians who actually prioritize environmental issues. Make conscious choices in your daily life. Every action, no matter how small, it contributes to the solution.
All right, I'm starting to feel that little spark of hope again. But
Yeah.
let's be real. There's always going to be people who just don't give a shit, right?
There will always be those who deny the reality of climate change.
Yeah.
But we can't let their inaction hold us back. We need to focus on building a movement, a coalition of people who are willing to fight for a better future.
A movement. Huh. Sounds kind of like a hippie commune, but I'm down.
It's about collective action. It's about recognizing that we're all in this together. It's about demanding change, not just for ourselves, but for generations to come.
Okay, I can get behind that.
Okay.
So we got education, conversation, action. Sounds like a plan.
It's a plan for survival, a plan for a better future, a plan for a world where we can all breathe a little easier.
Well said. All right, we're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we'll talk about what the future holds for California and what lessons we can all learn from this fiery fiasco. Stick around. All right, so we've talked about how to prevent these wildfires and how to help people who've been affected by them. But what about the bigger picture? What does the future hold for California? Are we all going to end up living in fire-resistant yurts, sipping cactus juice, and just praying for a breeze that doesn't turn the state into one giant bonfire?
It's definitely a valid concern, but I wouldn't say it's a hopeless situation.
Hopeful? Come on, we're talking about a state that's pretty much on fire year-round. What's
Yeah.
so hopeful about that?
Well, it's about adapting, innovating, finding ways to coexist with this changing climate. Remember that word we talked about earlier? Resilience.
Yeah, resilience.
Yeah.
It sounds like something you'd find in a self-help book. What does that even mean in a state that's basically a giant tinderbox?
Well, think of it this way. California has always been a place that reinvents itself, right?
Yeah.
Pushing boundaries, finding solutions to problems that seem impossible. I think we have the resources, the ingenuity, and honestly, the stubbornness to adapt to these new challenges.
So you're saying we're going to turn California into one giant fire-resistant laboratory. Like, start building houses out of asbestos, everyone starts wearing flame-retardant underwear.
We might not have to go that far, but yeah, there are some really innovative solutions starting to emerge.
Like what?
Rethinking urban planning,
Right.
designing those communities to be more fire-resistant, building with fire-safe materials, creating more defensible spaces around homes and businesses.
So it's not just about putting out the fires, it's about, like, preventing them from happening in the first place.
Exactly. It's also about creating a culture of preparedness, where people are educated about fire risks and know what to do in case a fire actually breaks out.
Okay, I'm starting to see the light at the end of this very smoky tunnel.
How?
But what about all the people who are already living in these high-risk areas? You know, the ones who are literally on the front lines of this whole firestorm. What happens to them?
That's where this idea of managed retreat comes into play.
Managed retreat. Sounds like something you do from a bad date. What the hell does that even mean?
It basically means relocating those communities, but doing it strategically, moving them away from the areas that are most vulnerable. It's a difficult conversation to have, but it might be the most sensible solution in some cases.
So like a mass evacuation from the fire zones. Isn't that a little bit drastic?
Well, it's not a decision to be taken lightly, obviously, and it has to be done in a way that's fair and equitable and respects the rights and the needs of those communities involved.
Because the last thing we need is another disaster on top of the disaster we're already dealing with, right?
Exactly. But it's a conversation that we need to have. I mean, we can't just keep rebuilding in areas that are facing ever-increasing risks.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get this whole resilience thing, but it still feels like we're just playing catch-up with this whole climate change monster.
Yeah.
How do we actually get ahead of this shitstorm?
Well, it's a long game. And it requires a pretty fundamental shift in our mindset. I mean, we need to stop thinking about ourselves as separate from nature. We have to start seeing ourselves as part of it.
So we got to start hugging trees and becoming best friends with squirrels.
More like recognizing that our actions have consequences.
Yeah.
And that we need to start living in a way that's sustainable for the long haul.
Well, sustainable, huh? That's a word that gets tossed around a lot these days. What does that actually mean in a world that's increasingly on fire?
It means moving away from fossil fuels, investing in renewable energy sources, promoting sustainable agriculture practices, rethinking our whole consumption patterns. It's about creating this circular economy.
Circular economy.
Yeah, where waste is minimized and resources are used way more efficiently.
So we basically need to give our whole society like a green makeover.
It's not just about being green, it's about being smart, efficient, and forward-thinking. It's about investing in solutions that benefit both people and the planet.
Okay, I'm starting to feel that glimmer of hope again. But let's be real, this shit ain't gonna happen overnight.
Right. It's a journey, not a destination. And it really requires everyone to make an effort, from individuals to governments to corporations.
So what can we, the regular folks, actually do to make a difference?
Educate yourself about what's going on. Talk to your friends and family about climate change and your communities. Support organizations working on solutions. Vote for leaders who actually prioritize environmental action. And most importantly, don't give up hope.
Hope, huh? In a world that's literally going up in flames.
Hope is not naive. It's a powerful motivator for change.
Yeah.
It's the belief that we can actually create a better future, even if we're faced with these seemingly insurmountable challenges.
All right, I'm feeling that hope spark starting to ignite.
Yep.
So what's the takeaway message here? What should our listeners be walking away with?
The 2025 California wildfires are a wake-up call. They're a stark reminder that climate change is very real. It's happening now, and it's affecting our lives in very real ways. But it's not too late to act. We have the knowledge, the tools, and the collective power to create a more resilient and sustainable future.
Damn, that was a good one. All right, folks, that wraps up our fiery deep dive into the 2025 California wildfires. It's been a wild ride, but hopefully we've learned a thing or two along the way.
Definitely.
And hopefully we can all take these lessons to heart and work together to create a future where these wildfires are the exception, not the norm.
Exactly.
Because nobody wants to live in a world where California is just one giant smoldering ashtray, right?
Yeah, I think we can all agree on that.
All right, that's it for today. Stay safe out there. And remember, hope is not a strategy, but it's a damn good place to start. Peace out.